Have you ever walked away from someone feeling strangely exhausted, even though they smiled the entire time? Have you ever ignored a small warning because you wanted to believe they were good, only to regret it later? The most dangerous people rarely look dangerous. They do not announce themselves. They do not wear cruelty on their faces. They hide behind kindness, charm, confidence, and even generosity. By the time you realize who they truly are, they have already taken your peace, your trust, your opportunities, or your reputation. Machiavelli understood something that most people never learn. Evil is rarely loud. It survives by appearing harmless. It succeeds because people judge appearances while ignoring patterns. The wolf survives because it knows how to wear the skin of a sheep. Before we begin, write this affirmation in the comments. I see people as they truly are. That simple sentence trains your mind to stop falling in love with appearances and start recognizing behavior. Because today's world doesn't reward the most innocent person. It rewards the most observant one. In this video, you'll discover the hidden psychological signs that expose dangerous people long before they can damage your life. These aren't obvious warning signs. They are subtle behaviors that most people dismiss until it's too late. Watch until the end, because the final sign is the one almost everyone overlooks. Yet, it reveals the darkest personalities with frightening accuracy. Once you understand these patterns, you'll never look at people the same way again. The first mistake most people make is believing that evil announces itself through anger, threats, or violence. In reality, the most dangerous individuals understand something simple. People trust appearances more than actions. That is why they invest enormous energy into creating a flawless image. They know exactly what to say, how to smile, when to compliment, and when to appear humble. Every interaction feels carefully designed. Nothing seems accidental. Machiavelli understood that appearances are political weapons. A prince who looked honorable could command loyalty even when his intentions remained hidden. Likewise, a manipulative person knows that reputation becomes armor. As long as everyone believes they are generous, any accusation against them sounds unbelievable. Pay attention to those who seem too perfect. Authentic people have awkward moments. They admit mistakes. They occasionally reveal insecurity. But someone constantly managing every impression may be protecting something much darker beneath the surface. Notice how they adapt their personality depending on who enters the room. Around powerful people, they become respectful. Around weaker people, they become dismissive. Around strangers, they become charming. Around family, they become controlling. The mask changes because it was never their face to begin with. Their greatest fear is not being disliked. It is being exposed. Most people mistake charisma for character. They assume confidence equals honesty. They confuse polished speech with moral integrity. Evil benefits from this confusion because it allows manipulation to happen in plain sight. The lesson is simple. Never judge someone by how they make everyone feel during the first meeting. Judge them by how consistently they behave when they have nothing to gain. Masks can fool the eyes. Patterns never fool the mind. Power rarely begins with force. It begins with influence. An evil person does not always tell you what to do. Instead, they quietly shape what you think you wanted all along. They plant ideas without taking ownership of them. They guide conversations so subtly that you believe every decision was yours. This is psychological domination. Machiavelli observed that the strongest rulers did not rely solely on armies. They mastered perception. Whoever controls perception controls behavior. Modern manipulators use the same principle, not over kingdoms, but over relationships, workplaces, friendships, and families. Watch how they react when they lose influence. Healthy people respect your independence. Dangerous people resent it. The moment you begin making your own choices, setting boundaries, or questioning their motives, their attitude changes. The warmth disappears. The patience fades. Suddenly you become selfish, difficult, or ungrateful. Why? Because control, not connection, was always the goal. They often create invisible dependence. They solve problems you never asked them to solve. They give favors that become emotional debts. They constantly remind you of everything they have done for you, ensuring you feel guilty whenever you disagree. What appears to be generosity slowly becomes a prison. The frightening part is that most victims never notice it happening. Every small compromise seems harmless. Every favor feels kind. Every sacrifice appears reasonable. Until one day they realize they no longer make decisions freely. The evil person never needed chains. They only needed your permission. And permission is easiest to obtain when control feels like care. Pay close attention to people who seem strangely energized whenever conflict appears. Most healthy individuals seek peace because peace creates stability. Evil personalities often seek confusion because confusion creates opportunity. When emotions become intense, critical thinking becomes weak. They understand this instinctively. Notice how arguments somehow always become bigger around them. Small misunderstandings become personal attacks. Private conversations become public drama. Friendships suddenly collapse after they enter the picture. Coincidence? Rarely. These individuals understand that divided people are easier to manipulate. When everyone is defending themselves, no one is examining the person who started the conflict. Sometimes they spread rumors without appearing responsible. Sometimes they ask innocent-looking questions designed to create suspicion. Sometimes they tell each person a slightly different story, then quietly watch relationships fall apart. Meanwhile, they remain calm. They become the reasonable one while everyone else looks emotional. Machiavelli recognized that confusion weakens resistance. A divided enemy is easier to conquer than a united one. The manipulator applies the same strategy in everyday life. You may even notice something unsettling. When you are suffering, they appear unusually calm. When your confidence declines, theirs seems to grow. When your relationships struggle, they somehow benefit. This does not always happen openly. Sometimes it appears as subtle satisfaction hidden behind fake concern. They comfort you with words while secretly appreciating your weakness. Never ignore someone who repeatedly profits from the chaos surrounding them. That pattern is rarely accidental. One of the clearest signs of a dangerous person is not that they make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. The difference is what happens afterward. A healthy person feels genuine discomfort after causing unnecessary harm. They reflect. They apologize without conditions. More importantly, their behavior changes. An evil person treats apologies as strategy. They say exactly what is needed to preserve their image, not to repair the damage. Listen carefully to the language. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry if you misunderstood. I'm sorry, but you made me do it. The apology immediately shifts responsibility back onto you. They acknowledge the conflict without accepting ownership. Even more revealing is how quickly they repeat the same behavior. Yesterday's apology becomes today's manipulation because nothing inside them actually changed. Remorse is expensive. It requires humility. It requires empathy. It requires accepting personal responsibility. Those qualities threaten the manipulator's greatest weapon, their self-image. Instead of asking, "How did I hurt this person?" they ask, "How do I avoid consequences?" That single difference exposes everything. Machiavelli warned that people often judge intentions instead of outcomes. A manipulator may sound sincere, but words are among the cheapest investments anyone can make. Observe actions over time. Patterns reveal character. Promises only reveal strategy. Envy is one of the quietest emotions, yet it often produces the darkest behavior. An evil person rarely attacks you because you have harmed them. More often, they attack because your existence reminds them of something they cannot possess, imitate, or control. Your confidence becomes an insult. Your peace becomes a challenge. Your success becomes a threat. Machiavelli understood that power creates envy just as naturally as fire creates heat. The more independent you become, the more uncomfortable certain people feel in your presence. They do not want to become stronger themselves. They simply want you to become weaker. Watch how they react when something good happens in your life. Genuine friends celebrate your victories without hesitation. They ask questions, smile sincerely, and encourage your growth because your success does not diminish their own. The manipulator responds differently. Their congratulations feel rehearsed. Their smile disappears the moment they think you are not looking. They quickly change the subject or find subtle ways to minimize your achievement. It was just luck. Anyone could have done that. Let's see how long it lasts. These comments seem harmless in isolation, but together they reveal a deeper pattern. Every compliment carries a hidden comparison. Every celebration contains a quiet attempt to pull you back down. Even more dangerous is their habit of disguising envy as concern. They tell you not to aim too high because they care about you. They encourage you to settle because they claim they are protecting you from disappointment. In reality, they are protecting themselves from watching you rise beyond their influence. Evil does not always seek your destruction in one dramatic moment. Sometimes it works patiently, reducing your confidence one small doubt at a time. Never mistake discouragement for wisdom simply because it comes from someone close to you. The people who fear your growth are often revealing more about themselves than about your potential. When someone constantly tries to make you smaller, ask yourself one question. Are they protecting you or protecting their position above you? That answer may change how you see them forever. Kindness is one of humanity's greatest strengths. To an evil person, it is also one of the easiest things to exploit. They quickly learn who forgives too easily, who avoids conflict, who constantly gives second chances, and who feels guilty for saying no. Once they identify these qualities, they begin using them as tools. This is why some of the kindest people suffer the most. Not because kindness is weakness, but because they fail to recognize those who feed upon it. Machiavelli warned that excessive mercy, when given without judgment, can eventually destroy the one offering it. Compassion without discernment becomes an invitation for manipulation. Notice how these individuals react when you establish boundaries. Healthy people may feel disappointed, but they respect your decision. An evil person sees boundaries as rebellion. Suddenly, you are accused of changing. They call you selfish, cold, arrogant, or ungrateful. They remind you of everything they have supposedly sacrificed for you. They attempt to awaken guilt because guilt is easier to control than confidence. Their favorite weapon is obligation. If you cared about me, after everything I've done for you, I thought you were different. These statements are not expressions of love. They are negotiations for your freedom. Every time you surrender your boundaries to keep someone comfortable, you quietly teach them that your limits are optional. Eventually, they stop asking. They simply expect. The tragedy is that many victims believe they are being good people while they are actually becoming easier to manipulate. Remember this: real kindness respects freedom. False kindness demands repayment. If someone's generosity always comes with invisible strings attached, it was never generosity at all. It was an investment. And now, they expect the return. There is one moment when every mask begins to crack. Not when life is easy, not when everything goes their way, but when they lose control. Machiavelli understood that pressure reveals the true quality of both rulers and men. Anyone can appear noble while they are winning. Tested character is exposed the moment power slips through their fingers. Watch carefully when an evil person hears the word no. That single word often reveals everything they spent years trying to hide. The charming smile disappears. The calm voice becomes sharp. The patient listener becomes aggressive. The respectful friend suddenly becomes insulting. And nothing changed except one thing: they no longer had control over you. This is why boundaries are such powerful tests of character. They separate those who value you from those who only valued access to you. An evil person believes relationships exist to serve their desires. The moment you stop fulfilling that role, they begin rewriting your identity. You become the problem. They spread subtle lies. They question your motives. They attempt to isolate you from others before you can expose them. This is not emotional maturity. It is damage control. Notice how quickly they recruit allies. They rarely confront reality alone because they understand that perception can become a weapon. If enough people hear their version first, your truth suddenly sounds like an excuse. They fear one thing above all else: losing influence. Because once people begin thinking independently, manipulation becomes impossible. That is why they often cycle through the same pattern: charm, control, resistance, anger, smear campaign, replacement. The faces change. The strategy never does. If you remain calm while they lose control, you accomplish something extraordinary. You expose them without saying a single word. Silence forces masks to fall on their own. And once someone shows you who they become without power, never forget what you witnessed. That moment is not the exception. It is the truth. Most people spend their lives searching for good people. Few spend enough time learning to recognize dangerous ones. That imbalance explains countless broken friendships, failed partnerships, toxic workplaces, and painful betrayals. Evil rarely succeeds because it is stronger. It succeeds because it is underestimated. Machiavelli never encouraged blind distrust. He encouraged clear observation. He understood that emotions cloud judgment while patterns reveal reality. The wise person does not become paranoid. He becomes attentive. Look back at the signs you've learned today. The perfect mask, the hunger for invisible control, the enjoyment of emotional chaos, the absence of genuine remorse, the quiet poison of envy, the manipulation of kindness, the mask that falls when power disappears. Individually, one behavior may mean very little. Anyone can have a bad day. Anyone can make a mistake. But repeated patterns are different. Patterns are the fingerprints of character. This is where many people fail. They keep waiting for a dramatic confession, an obvious betrayal, or undeniable proof. Meanwhile, the evidence has been accumulating for months or even years in the form of consistent behavior. Never ignore repeated patterns simply because someone's words are beautiful. Words create impressions. Actions create truth. Remember that evil rarely appears as a monster. More often, it appears as someone who makes you question yourself while never questioning themselves. Someone who drains your confidence while protecting their own image. Someone who demands loyalty without offering honesty. Someone who needs your weakness more than your friendship. The greatest protection is not becoming colder. It is becoming wiser. Observe before trusting. Listen more than you speak. Watch how people treat those who cannot benefit them. Watch how they react to your success. Watch who they become when they cannot control the outcome. These moments reveal more than years of pleasant conversation ever could. True strength is not the ability to defeat evil after it enters your life. True strength is recognizing it before you ever invite it in. The most powerful man in any room is not the strongest, the loudest, or the most feared. He is the one who sees clearly while everyone else is distracted by appearances. And once you learn to see clearly, very few people will ever be able to deceive you again. If this message changed the way you look at people, don't let it end here. Knowledge becomes power only when it changes the way you observe the world. Starting today, pay less attention to promises and more attention to patterns. Trust less in appearances and more in consistent actions. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to sharpen your judgment. Machiavelli understood that wisdom is not about expecting the worst from everyone. It is about refusing to be blinded by illusion. The person who sees reality as it is cannot be easily manipulated, betrayed, or controlled. There will always be people who wear convincing masks. There will always be those who use charm to hide selfish motives. But there will also be honest, loyal, and trustworthy people. Your goal is not to fear everyone. It is to learn the difference. If you've made it this far, you've already taken the first step toward becoming far more difficult to deceive. Now leave this affirmation in the comments. I see beyond the mask. Every time you write those words, you reinforce a simple but powerful principle. You will judge people by their actions, not their performance. And if this message resonated with you, remember this. The greatest advantage in life is not knowing how to manipulate others. It is knowing when someone is trying to manipulate you. Once you master that skill, your peace, your confidence, and your future become much harder for anyone to steal.